Hello, I'm author Mark Muncy,
And I'm author Erika Lance.
and this is Eerie Travels. Greetings, travelers.
Greetings, travelers in a haunted holiday.
Oh, yes. Holiday spirit is just exploding from us as we thank our Lord and Savior Optimus Prime for dying for us. Wait.
You can chalk up your gas to exploding from you holiday spirit there, Mark.
Yeah, it's true. No, we had we had the gas inspector come out to our new mountain bunker and said, "Oh, you're missing two regulators that you should have." And we're like, "Oh, those sound important." They said, "Yeah, otherwise your house might explode."
Please let the listeners know that your house isn't going to explode.
No, as long as I don't smell rotten eggs, I'm good. But no.
Oh God, that's not how we do this. I'm
No.
They
They found the paperwork for the original house and were able to find that there were two more regulators. Just the inspector couldn't find it.
Oh, okay, good.
But now I do have to say, because of the new house, something has come up.
You've got to tell the story because the amazing wife of yours, Carrie, posted about this, and I was like,
Posted the second part of this. So
okay,
did not post about the first part. Now, Carrie is ghost lodestone, right?
Yeah.
Nothing happens to her. Well, I went to bed one night, wasn't feeling well, had a rough week. Epilepsy is not my friend. And I went and laid down early, and Carrie, sat up in the house, and then she said about 2 a.m, when she was about ready to come to bed, she heard laughter from the far side of the house. Now, I was dead asleep, and that's from this room that I record in, my office room, which is where we know we have a visitor.
Maybe he found something funny in one of the books. I mean,
he loved my books because he moves my books around quite a bit already. I've got to get a camera in here just to see what happens now. So I'm going to be reaching out to some of my ghost hunting teams to see what they can come up with for us. But she heard that, and she heard some movement, and then she was like, "Nope, going to bed." And so that's the first time Carrie's noped out of a thing.
Oh, yes. Well, welcome, Carrie. Carrie through vicariously. Welcome to the note. There is Carrie. Carrie, come on in.
He's telling my stories, so
okay.
I have to come in. You forgot the second thing I heard.
Oh, what was the second thing? I forgot.
Because the laughter didn't seem malicious, but at 2 a.m, when you're sitting by yourself, it's a little creepy. But then right after, he said, "Woof."
Carrie, you're kind of cute. I'm just saying.
That's
maybe you got an admirer in this room. Maybe he's like, Mark's in bed. I can hit on Carrie.
So now part 2, which was this morning.
Yeah.
So tell that.
I'll say what I saw that you posted on Facebook. It appears that somebody took your yarn and started redecorating. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of odd. I was working on a little ghosty crochet, and the yarn went all the way across the room now.
and for no reason whatsoever, that we have no, Claudius is locked into his room. Everybody, this was in a complete opposite side of the house, and we were dead asleep. So who knows?
Well, we don't hear anything when we're dead asleep.
Yeah. So
just saying, you have a friend there, and it wouldn't surprise me, just because of the location of where your guys' house is, that you have other transient friends that can come and visit you.
Right.
Not harmful ones, but
considering the number of cats, maybe it was a cat thing.
A ghost cat in your house. You would know if there was a cat, because you'd have other sounds and things like that, because they would have had to get in.
I'd have ghost allergies.
But I am just proud, Carrie, that you noped out of that situation. You full Erika and went, and we're done. Garrett's just pulled a full Erika too. So
I also know that Mark is pretty much deaf, so if something happens to me and I'm screaming, he's not coming.
Yeah.
Just call me. I'm close enough. I'll get there.
Yeah, be here quick enough. So, all right. Thank you, Carrie.
That was awesome. Amazing. And I love that finally happened to her.
Yeah, finally had finally had some woo-woo happen to her. So yeah.
Yeah, now she's gonna have to take the protection bottle with her that was cute before, but now she's actually gonna have to use it. I love that. That's hysterical. But do you know what else? Before we get into this wonderful holiday Holler Monster episode, we have two, not one, two breaking news stories. Okay, the first one is kind of funny, I guess. I don't know. So there is an alien corpse in Mexico. Mark, do you know about this?
Yes. They made a big. Is it Peru or Mexico? They found
It's
it
in Peru. Sorry, it's in South
Peru.
America. It's in Peru.
Yeah, they found it in Peru, and they announced we have found aliens for a big government press conference to tie in with the U.S. press conferences, I guess. And they are the craziest looking things. And I love that our good friend Ron Lanham from Wild and Weird West Virginia, for one of their events, they made a Rice Krispies treats version of this alien, and it looks perfect because that's what it looks like. It looks like a tray with a Rice Krispie treat alien mummy. And everybody has been like, well, when can we study it? When can we say, oh, we're studying it? So.
Yeah, so apparently, just so you know, the alien experts in Peru have said that aliens do not have lungs or ribs. So that is part of thing. But apparently what came out was that 30% of the DNA is analyzed as not match humans, but is an unknown species.
But that means 70% was human?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm thinking mermaid here now.
It's definitely not human, Mark. Definitely.
Oh, okay. Definitely not. Definitely not.
Definitely. Okay. So we're including
30% not.
Yeah, including a link in the show notes. Very vital. But even better breaking news.
What?
And this comes out. This is very funny because we got to do a mini little shout out again to our wonderful friend Stacy Brown.
Oh, yes.
Because apparently we're going to Harrisville, Rhode Island, which is the location of
the Conjuring house.
Yes. So this news story broke, but basically this week, early Monday, the barn on the property of the Conjuring house caught fire right after midnight.
Wow. And they I believe they still are investigating the cause.
Yes.
So I was woken up to this news. The Conjuring house is on fire. And I'm like, oh no. And because we just got the new owner. But no, it was the barn.
Exactly. So there is a owner, and then now there's a new owner that purchased the property as of May of this year. And Stacy talked a little bit about what they did, right? Yeah. But the house itself was fine, and they're saying the spirits within are all okay. Although some of them, I don't know if we want them to be okay, whatever. But it was the barn that caught fire, and they were able to jump on it and get the fire out before it spread or whatever. But I'm just saying, Stacy, don't know what you stirred up there, my friend. We talked about that a little bit on that show.
Might have closed that portal behind you if you could have.
This is what happens when you have seances and bury people on the property. That's all I'm going to say. So yeah. Anyway, those are our two breaking news stories. Links are in the notes. So.
Erika, you missed a crucial part of that last story.
Oh, Beau jumping in. What did I miss?
You got all the guests.
Apparently, one of the fire trucks that came to the Conjuring house to help put the fire out had the license plate 666. Spooky.
Oh,
dun, dun, dun. I just got the heebie-jeebies. I don't know why I just got the heebie-jeebies. I don't like that.
So I presented that so funny. Why did you get the heebie-jeebies?
I don't know why I got the heebie-jeebies, but I absolutely just got the heebie-jeebies, and I don't enjoy that at all. Thank you anyway.
Now I'm going back to the shadows where I belong.
Yes, as you sink back into the shadows. Oh my gosh, this has been a fun start to this episode.
This already. I mean, we're breaking news back. We haven't had that in a while because we've been.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so
I'm glad we had a couple stories we could break in there. So
our guests are on fire.
Yeah, and we've got more coming for Haunted Holidays. Oh my gosh, still, this late in the game, we still got them coming. So
oh my gosh, goodness. Yes.
This is
So,
crazy.
Mark, you are going to tell us about some Holler monsters.
Yeah, I've gotten some recent ones that haven't been in Eerie, Appalachia that might be in one of the new books, of course, that we are
Not talking about yet.
talking about. Yeah, future projects. Let's
You
leave it
are
at that.
terrible at this future project thing, by the way.
I'm not good at secrets.
No,
that's
you are
my
not.
first things. You can ask my kids that anytime I got a Christmas present for them, like in July, I gave it to them right then. So it's like,
Yeah, you are a little bit fired from this, but
or
continue
then when I
on.
would get smart and hide it, I wouldn't find it till like February, and then give it to them in February. Say, oh, this was supposed to be a Christmas present.
Note to self on Mark's Christmas
Oh.
present giving skills. Okay, so let's talk about Holler. So where
Yeah.
are we starting our journey for these Holler monsters, Mark?
All right, so I'm going to take you to a little town in Tennessee.
Ooh, I like Tennessee. Where are we going?
This is not too far from Sevierville, so not too far from us. It is in eastern Tennessee, and it is in an area called Beech Springs, Tennessee,
Ooh.
which is a little unincorporated town.
I like
And
it.
those are where I get the best Holler monster stories, right? So after I'd written Eerie, Appalachia, a person wrote me and asked me if I knew about this one creature that we've discussed a little bit here and there. It was the name that that the Cherokee fear, and it is Spearfinger.
Oh, yes. We
Now-
talked a little bit about Spearfinger in one of the recent episodes, but yes, let's Spearfinger.
Okay, so
Because this
Spearfinger,
is a vengeful woman cryptid, and I appreciate that.
you gotta love that. No,
Yes.
the story goes that she was a Cherokee who wanted more and more power within the tribe. It's similar to the Wendigo. She was taking out people that were in her way to get power. And it started with some of the other, the midwives and the wise women. And then it got to the point where she needed to take out the medicine man. And so she went to take him out, and then they were able to stop her and curse her with this crazy curse where she is forced to walk the world forever unless she can eat, you ready for this? Human livers.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of this story.
Yes.
Okay, we need to dial it back for a moment here. So, she starts trying to kill people. That's how this is the genesis of this.
Getting rid of people. They didn't.
Why is she so scorned?
Well, that's just it. She wanted to get more power. Oh, so she was kept down in the ranks, and she felt like she deserved better, and the people were always keeping her down. So instead of working hard and getting higher up and learning new things, she would just take out the person above her, filling dead man's boots, as it were.
Okay, well, I'm not going to endorse this in present day, but I'm saying that it may have been a way to work around some sort of glass ceilings or straw ceilings
exactly.
back then, whatever.
But if you're gonna kill the medicine man of your tribe, make sure you plan it a little better so that you don't get caught and then cursed for eternity.
Well, not every plan is foolproof, Mark.
No, her soul was crossed with basically a demon, and that's why she walks eternally. She made an offer to save her life, and that's why she has to eat liver.
Okay.
And now
so
to do
she
this,
did this, or she was cursed? Wait a minute, I'm confused.
She was cursed to wander the happy hunting grounds forever and never be to the happy hunting grounds. She was cursed to walk the earth forever, and then she made a deal with some darker power, and that's where she got this. And they were like, "Oh, you can go back to life, but you have to eat livers." Oh, okay. Oh, well, human livers. And to make this easier, she transformed into this, diabolic looking creature that's 7 to 10 feet tall. And
I need to understand something. Does she eat them with fava beans and a nice Chianti?
That's what I always want to know. But she gave herself like the ultimate tool for this. She has one long talon on her index finger, and then she can poke that into you and pull out your spleen like a talon.
I don't, there's some physics that don't work with that just little theory, but I love it. I love it. It's terrifying, little pokey. I'm gonna poke you, I like it.
Okay. So it's a common folklore tale of
Yeah.
in the Cherokee area. A lot of the early settlers would hear this story from the Cherokee and go, wow, that's weird. That's like the moon-eyed people. That's all these other weird stories. We don't believe any of it. Now we're starting to realize some of it might have happened. And we're starting to go, wait a minute, we need to give these things a little more credence, but Spearfinger can't be real.
No,
so I got a letter, and this is from a man named I better not use the name because I'm not sure 100% I'm allowed to use the name.
okay, so from a person who doth not be named.
Shall not be named. But anyway, he said his family legend is that one of his family disappeared long ago and was found and had a very peculiar wound. So we're going to tell this little story here. So we're going in the Wayback Machine. The boy's name was Daniel Jefferson. Daniel Jefferson Boone. He was named after several heroes. And then his family last name, which I'm not going to say for now, just to be safe.
Okay.
And he was going home after a long night at church. And he had stayed late at the church and he had helped the church, but he was not a member of the church. He just liked to work there and help and do things. And the preacher told him, hey, did you listen to the sermon tonight? And he's like, yeah, none of that scares me none. He's like,
of course not.
This is, when I don't listen to preachers. I don't listen to any of this. I'm just here. I like the church. I think it's a beautiful building. I like working on it. And that's why I'm here to help. And I'm wrapping up tonight. I'm going to head home. He's like, but I'm going to head across the holler. It's a moonless night. So I got to be a little extra careful tonight, but I'll be fine.
So he starts his evening by telling the church that he doesn't believe in them.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the preacher's like, the old widow across the way says you can go stay with her, because rather than cross the holler on a moonless night, that ain't safe. There's things out there that would hurt you. And he's like, that's a good idea. The widow knows their stories and she knows the land, but I've walked these lands my whole life since I was a youngster. No problem. I got this.
The start to every terrible tale. Somebody gives good advice and the other person goes, I got this. I'm good.
Yeah. He's like, old wives' tales. That's a bunch of hootenanny hogwash. I'm good. I got this.
Hootenanny hogwash. Okay.
Yeah. So he goes off into the woods. And now the preacher and a couple of the other people at the church are like, well, he just better be careful because old Spearfinger hunts on moonless nights. And we've told him about it. It's an old Cherokee legend. Hunts like an animal and feeds on the bodies of the living. And she pretends to be something that you love and lure you in. And then once she gets your guard down, she uses that long fingernail and she skewers you. And that's how she gets her name. The one guy's like, you know what? It's closing time, folks at the church. Go home. I don't need the preacher's like, we don't need these stories. So the bartender across the way is like, come on over to the bar. We'll have some nice drinks on this cold moonless night, right? So they all head over and they all go do that. And they all go, well, let's toast old Jefferson Davis there as he's heading out on his holler walk. Make sure he gets home okay. So Jefferson starts walking through the woods and through the underbrush, and he comes upon a hollow with a footpath, and it's dark and just the faintest starlight keeping his eyes open. But he knows the woods. He kind of thought about the widow, old Widow Doyle, like maybe I should head back to her. But it's a dark night. I'm good. I got this. And he starts basically into the darkness, and he heads up the creek, and he starts heading up towards the old farm that he knows up there. But somehow he heard like a thud near his shoes. And he realizes something's wrong because the forest is dead silent. No crickets, no owls.
You know,
Not
you know my number one thing to know something is wrong is when it goes dead quiet.
Yeah, not even tree branches moving in the wind. It is just dead silent. And then that thud down by his feet, and he looks, and there's just a stone, and he's like, just kicked it up, something. I'm good. So he goes a little further, but now 2 twigs fall into the ground, like right in front of him. And he sees this large tree just kind of blow itself over on the other side of the road.
Just blow itself over.
Literally got like pushed over by a feather, but he could hear the wind, just a faint wind, but then the tree came down. And as soon as the tree came down, there was the big thud. And he's like, okay, now I'm nervous. Maybe I should head back to the widow's. I'm still closer to that than the farm. And then he hears a new sound. And it's a crack, as if something stepped on a fallen twig. All right. So he knows he's not alone in the woods now. And now every dark Holler monster story is going through his head, right? Everything that could possibly be in the woods is in the woods. And he's thinking of ghosts of the Civil War. He's thinking of native spirits. He's thinking of the devil himself, who supposedly stuck his nose in a lake nearby. And that's why they had to move the church closer to the mountain instead of the lake, because you can't put the church where the devil was. And all these stories are going through his head, but then he's noticed again, it's gone silent. And then he sees a little girl crying over by the fallen tree. And he runs up to her, and she goes, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Did the tree hurt you?" And suddenly every hair on the back of his neck stands up. And he realizes he's a mouse cornered by a very big cat. Because
you're explaining this, and it reminds me, for anybody in the video game world, whoever played, what was it? Left 4 Dead, I think.
Oh yeah, the witch.
Witches? Yes.
The witch.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's what it reminded me of, the weeping and then whatever, and then it attacks you, and completely freaked out. Thanks. Okay.
So he's looking around. He knows that there's wildcats in the area, and that's the feeling he's got right now. Okay. And he looks at the little girl, and he's like, all right, we got to get out of here. Let's get you out of here. So he picks up the little girl, and he looks at her, and he realizes she's one of the little girls from town. And he's like, great. And then there comes the big cat, and it's what looks like a bobcat, maybe a panther, but there aren't panthers in this part of the woods, but that's what the story says. So he goes, shoo, cat, trying to, I ain't afraid of you, go away. Can't scare me none, get out of here. And so he stomps the ground, kicks the dirt. You're just a big kitty. Get out of here. Get out of here. He ain't got no gun. He ain't got nothing. He's just trying to get home. But now he's got this little girl, and he's like, all right. And the cat runs off. And he's like, gotcha. Spooked you good, didn't I? So he turns back to the trail, grabs the little girl, and he's like, let's get you home. I'll take you to the widow's place. It's not that far. Well, you can stay warm there. I'll sleep tonight. We'll get you home in the morning. And he was starting to get really weary, barely able to see the path now because it's getting darker very fast. And the little girl stops crying. And that's when he turns and looks at her as he's picked her up. And he realizes he's just holding a bundle of rags.
Oh.
The little girl is not anything. And then he realizes he doesn't know what trail he's on and doesn't know where he is. and he quickly starts writing in the dirt, so he knows which direction he's gone and which way he's gonna go. And as he's writing into the dirt, a shadow falls over him, and he hears a loud screech. The next day, the people are out looking for Jefferson Davis Boone because he ain't here. And then they go find this scratching in the ground, and it just says, going north, hope to be Spearfinger. And that's the
Oh.
last thing that's written on the ground, and he was never seen again. So that's the
Okay.
family story, and he literally disappears off the family tree. There are no more records of this, and the family has written it into a short story that they are going to be publishing soon in a tale of Holler monsters, because they shared it with me. But I love that they had an encounter with Spearfinger.
First of all, that tale is terrifying. So
Yep.
let's start there. But is she somebody that's seen even now, or is she an older legend?
She's an older legend, but supposedly people still see her, but now they call her Skinwalker, or they call her some other name, because Spearfinger is a stupid name. Let's, that's what I think is what it comes to.
I got it.
That's like when people see stump jumpers and they call them, puckwudgies, or, because stump jumper is a dumb name. I think Spearfinger is just one of those stories that has persisted. And there are many traveler encounters with it from the Wild West days and early settlers days that would talk about the Cherokee saying, yeah, it's real. And we protect ourselves from it. So if you want to protect yourselves from Spearfinger, native artifacts that are given to you, not taken, they have to be given to you. So you have to find like arrowheads or flint rock, or the best thing is fairy stones. Now, are you familiar with those?
Oh, yeah.
Erika? Yeah. So if you can find one of those in the river, if a river gives it to you and you wear that, Spearfinger won't touch you.
Well,
But
that's good to know.
But there is one more little bit to this story, and we will do that after we come back from the break.
Destiny Beard, the lyrical soprano who will haunt your dreams. With her alluring melodies and intricate harmonies, this dark siren of wistful song shall capture your soul and lead you into the night. Check out Destiny's new single, The Haunting Is Over, with international musicians Sam Haines and Gary Bennett, as well as her other musical works at destinybeard.com.
Eerie, Appalachia. Gear up for a frightful jaunt into the darkest reaches of the ancient Appalachians. Folks deep within the Appalachian hollers lean close to the campfire to share stories of the inexplicable with hushed awe. Monsters rumbling in the hills, strange lights darting through the pitch black night sky, horrible occurrences almost ineffable in their bizarre tragedy. Tall tales, you might say. Tell that to the Flatwoods monster in Braxton County, West Virginia, or the Goat Man of Louisville. Look into his humanoid eyes and let him know you don't believe. And what of those apparitions in Mammoth Cave's Corpse Rock, or the Satan spawn known as the Jersey Devil? How do you respond when confronted by these mysteries? From the metaphysical energy that swirls near Serpent Mound in Ohio to Point Pleasant's Mothman legacy, Mark Muncy and Carrie Schultz explore the dark history lurking in the shadows of Appalachia. Read by Mark Muncy, author and experts on strange folklore with appearances on shows such as Ancient Aliens, The Curse of Robert the Doll, and many, many more. And we're back.
We're back, and
All right. So that's the end of the story from the family. So I started researching this, and like you said, I wanted to see, if there was any other sightings of Spearfinger in the area or anything like this. Now, what I do have is a fun sheriff's report that this is from an interview in a newspaper from Sevierville, near that area. And it's in an area called Beech Springs, Beech. And this sheriff's report said a young boy had fallen and broken his leg pretty bad. And they thought he died from exposure, but that isn't what killed him.
Okay.
This is from the sheriff's quote. When the coroner came up, he noticed right away that it looked like the boy had been stabbed in the side deep. And the killer must have been some real sicko. I love that this is the newspaper quote, because it looked like the knife used to cut out the boy's liver.
Oh.
And what kind of person does that? And Nashville police came to investigate. And as far as I can tell, there was no arrest. Now, this is a report from 1957.
Oh my gosh.
So there you go.
Wow.
So Spearfinger might be haunting those hills near Sevierville. I wonder if he hangs out at Dollywood. No.
I have been to Dollywood. I did not see her there.
Yeah. Anyway, one of those fun ones, and one of those ones that they thought might be one of Otis Toole or somebody like that just, traveled the country doing weird things. Maybe that's the first mention I can find of a missing liver in East Tennessee. So.
Well, and if she's there and she has to do that, there are a lot of disappearances. And what's interesting about police reports too, before we get on to the next two Holler monsters, is sometimes, especially older police reports, have two things. They either give way too much info that people wouldn't give now on certain situations, or they kind of cover it up. Like I was reading a case study where they were talking about the death of these two girls. Trigger warning, jump ahead 10 seconds. The two girls were killed, but they were raped when they were killed. So there was sexual assault and then they were killed. But because the coroner wanted to make sure that they didn't get an illicit reputation or something like that, he left that part off the autopsies. So when certain people had sort of come up as suspects, their confessions involved that particular piece of information, and they were kind of discounted because no, that didn't happen to those girls. I think that it's interesting, but I wonder how many missing livers have happened and if she still prowls the hollers.
That's the question. That is the great question of that. So
yeah.
So from there, we are going to travel to the outskirts of the Great Dismal Swamp.
Okay.
This is not a holler because this is, coastland, but the Great Dismal Swamp is out in your area, Beau, right? And it's known for the Dismal Swamp Beast, which is also known as, because we call them skunk apes down in Florida, over in the Dismal Swamp, they call him Skunkfoot. And it's a Bigfoot that attacks Boy Scout camps with a foul smell. And everybody says the smell is the worst thing about it. And they even have a couple newspapers have written about it, near Chesapeake and stuff like that. So, but we're going to go to the other side of the park.
Okay.
And we're going to a town called Corapeak, which is on the other side of the swamp. Now, Corapeak, a family wrote to me that they have what they consider a holler monster. They live in a small valley. They live in this floodplain area. And whenever the rains come very, very strongly, they see something unusual come out of the swamp and meander towards their farm. And they've seen it a few times over a couple 100-year span that the family owns the land there.
Okay.
And they call it the Great Worm, the Corapeak Worm. And this creature is segmented like a giant caterpillar. But
interesting.
The head is that of a human. And it's supposed to be about 10 foot long to 12 feet long. Not super huge like you'd think. When we think of great worms, we're thinking, the Lanyon worm in England, and which is supposed to be 30, 40 feet long or 100 feet long and stuff like that. This is supposed to be 10 to 12 feet long. So maybe like,
But it sounds kind of like a naga if it has a human head, right?
right, exactly. Now, the story behind this one is a
Okay.
little Christmassy, which is why I
Oh.
wanted to put that one on this episode. So the park ranger in the Dismal Swamp says that, the skunk foot he believes in, but does not believe in the worm. And
Okay.
then the other ranger that I talked to about this believes in the worm, but doesn't believe in skunk foot. So it's, and he says he's seen it. So while he was
Oh.
on patrol, and now neither of these rangers are allowed to say their names because they will be sent to parts unknown, and who knows where they'll be restationed. So that's what we've learned from these rangers. Now,
Okay.
what's interesting about the worm, the family story goes. All right, we're ready for this? We're ready for another fun family story?
I love fun family stories during our haunted holiday Holler Monster special.
Exactly. So this one was Linda, was a young girl who worked on the farm. She was not part of the family, but she worked there to make a living. They needed extra help bringing in the crops. It was getting wintry, so all that was left was to pack everything, can everything, get ready for the long winter and survive. Now, this is 1920s. It is the Great Depression. They're trying their best. Every family is doing whatever they can to survive.
Yeah.
And little Linda is a little sickly. She's got a cough, which I would assume tuberculosis, because of that
Yeah.
time, I'm afraid. So she's always sickly. She's always coughing. They don't want her canning anything, but she desperately needs the work. So they
Okay.
tell her, you can go over to the other side of the field, over right where we border the swamp. And what we need is the fence fixed. You can help a couple of the boys over there fix up the fence. All you
Okay.
need to do is kind of keep a lookout, make sure nothing comes out of the swamp that might injure the animals, might hurt the boys. There's been some bears, there's been some other strange noises coming out of the swamp.
Well, of course, because there always is.
Because there always is, and because there'd been recent flooding. So a lot of the animals were up and about, and they were, looking for foraging stronger. And with winter coming, or winter was already here, they were in, dire straits. So the animals would be out in force. And she was out there watching the boys. So she was up on the hill. The boys are out in the field, putting up the fence, making sure we need to keep the predators out. We got to protect the chickens, the livestock, all that fun stuff. And while they're putting up the fence, she hears strange noise. Linda looks into the woods, and over in the woods, she sees a rustling, and she's wondering what's coming. So she yells to the boys, be careful, something's coming from the swamp. And they go, all right, we're on it. So one of the boys grabs his gun and he's got it ready. He's got a rifle. He's got an old repeater rifle that his dad had from the Wild West days.
Oh,
And
wow.
so you can shoot he said, well, the family story says you could shoot a gnat off a fence post at 100 yards. So he's ready. He's got it cocked and ready, and he's watching the woods, and she's looking out over the swamp,
Okay.
all watching the movement. And out comes a herd of deer. Now,
Well, normally that means they're being chased by something.
well, they're happy because, hey, we got some deer meat. That'll go good with the stockpile. So,
Exactly.
so the boy takes aim, fires a shot, downs a buck right off the bat. Fires a second shot, downs the doe. The other three scatter the other direction, and now they're like, all right, well, let's go get the food. Let's go get the meat. Not thinking ahead like you were, Erika, that there might have been something pushing them this way. So they make their way slowly into the swampy water, and it's just mucky at this point because it is very cold. So it's not the deep swamps that they're expecting that's normally there. And they're just kind of working their way through the outskirts and working their way through the mud. And she's still watching for them. And she calls out to him and says, all right, it's right over there. That's where you guys got it. And she's kind of telling them where to go because she's got the vantage and telling them which way to go. And they get there and they start collecting the game. They're going to drag it back to the farm. And so they load it up. They figure they'll work on the fence later. This is a much bigger prize. And they start coming back and they look up at her and she's gone. And they march up the hill to say, Linda, where are you? Don't come down this way. It's swampy. And they don't hear her cough. They don't see her. And they get up there and there are tracks that is like a rut in the ground right up to her that looks like someone had dug a gully, they said, right up to her. And they said, oh no, she's been dragged into the swamp. And now they're panicking because, oh
As
God.
they should be.
Yeah. So they run to get help. And the whole family comes out and they get all the workers and they get all the workers' families and everybody's swarming the swamp. They find the little girl. She had been dragged to a dry area on a little island with a small fire. And she's sitting there and she says, the worm tried to get me. The worm came for me. And I was caught. But I couldn't say a thing because I was swallowed. And then they go, well, what happened? What happened? And she says, the big guy, the wild man, he pulled me out of the worm. And he put me here and built the fire for me. And he looked just like Santa Claus, but he was smelly and extra hairy. And he must have not done his washing because he wasn't wearing his coat. And that is the story of this family.
Hold on. We're not done yet. I have many things I have observed that I need to talk about. First of all and foremost, what was Santa like back then? Because I'm assuming we're talking about a Bigfoot or a skunk ape or whatever.
We're talking about right at, the 1920s. So we'd already had the Dickens Christmas Carol, and it was pretty popularized in the US, but we hadn't had Coca-Cola yet, making Santa Mr. Macy's Day or anything like that. He was pretty much a wild character of the woods. Think C.S. Lewis version was a pretty prominent display. He was basically a wild man who brought you presents.
Interesting. I would love for a wild man to bring me presents, if you know what I mean. So she says that basically, and that was a different version of wild man than we're both thinking, but I can see the look on Beau's face right now, and I broke her while recording this podcast. So basically, I just want to make sure I'm interpreting this story in Eerie Travels times. Bigfoot saved this little girl from a giant worm and built her a fire and left her on an island.
Yep.
We are not living in the right time frame, because I feel like this is so fantastical. I want to live in a time frame where Bigfoot is saving me from a giant worm and then building me a fire and maybe bringing me presents, because that's how that works. Maybe.
She had a pile of nuts and berries.
Oh, some nuts and berries. How you doing? Some sticks.
Yeah, there you go.
Bigfoot saved Christmas. Yes, Beau. I think Bigfoot saved Christmas in this particular instance.
Yep.
Okay. So are there any
has the worm been seen since? Yes. A couple times. Some of the family members have supposedly seen it, but have never gotten close enough to it to get an accurate description, except for that human head. And apparently big enough to swallow a small child. So
yeah, well, that's because you shouldn't go after this, right?
Yep. So if Hollywood makes this, it's going to be Tremors versus Bigfoot. Yes. So
wow.
All right. So we got time for one more.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more, but I don't know how you're going to top a worm that saved Christmas.
Yeah, I don't know if I can top it, but I think this one, I was saving this one for last because it's short, it's sweet, but it's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Okay. So this is in a town called Little Switzerland in North Carolina, not too far from us. And this is a touristy town. and they have an area near it called Little Switzerland Tunnel. It is an old tunnel that you can go visit, and that is your travel for this week, gang, is definitely head over to visit Little Switzerland. It's a tourist town. It's just like visiting Switzerland, but you're in North Carolina mountains. And it's a blast. It's really cool. I can't wait to go back. I haven't been there in a decade, so I'm excited to go back soon because this story hit me. And this one landed on my email list right after Eerie, Appalachian. A family told me, did you know about the time that Little Switzerland was invaded by weevils? And I'm like, okay, I did not know about this. And these weevil creatures are bigger than normal weevils, but they were destroying the crops. They were destroying everything that was being stored in this town. This is before it was a tourist attraction. This is in the early days of this town just being settled and starting to get.
I think you need to describe what a weevil is.
Okay, so a weevil is like, gosh, how best to describe it? It's like a bug that's like a giant beetle, and they are known for getting into grain and stuff. They've got a really long snout. That's what really separates them. It's like a proboscis of some sort. And they tend to they're also called flour bugs because they infest flour, rice, cornmeal, and all your dry goods. But sometimes you'll buy a box and suddenly you'll pour it out and to boil it, and these little bugs start floating to the top because they'd been in your stuff.
Well,
so
that's nice and gross. So thank you.
That's very gross. So it would be, when you're eating your Christmas porridge, just watch out for weevils.
Oh,
but
yuck. Who the hell eats porridge on Christmas?
Yeah, they're not common. It's just they're an odd thing. They're basically a beetle. And now what happened is they were trying everything they could to get rid of them. This was an infestation, and they weren't sure what to do. And the church was praying for it. The town was trying to figure out what to do because now their grain supply is gone. It's coming to winter. We don't know what we're going to do. How are we going to get rid of the weevils? And this is where we have one of those fun stories of a wild man out of the woods, and big hairy creature, but he has a satchel, and he gives it to the town, and he puts it on the ground in town. Now, normally everybody's panicking because the wild man's in it, and this is supposedly a 10-foot tall wild man. And he brings the satchel to the town. And the satchel in it, when he leaves immediately, and everybody finally runs out to see what the heck did the wild man bring us. And they said it looked like a tuning fork. It was a metal thing, and it looked like a U shape on the top with a metal rod. And next to it was a clay stick with a little wooden bell on the top.
So a tuning fork that's metal with a clay stick with a bell.
Yeah. And
this would be a weird, like, in-law present that you get that you don't know what to do with.
Yeah, what the heck is this? And it's covered with native writings that they don't understand from a tribe that they're not familiar with. And somebody gets the idea, bong, hits the clay onto the tuning fork. And it drives away a group of weevils that are nearby. So they immediately start walking over all the grain silo and all the storage things and are just banging the heck out of this thing to chase them away. And the weevils flee.
Oh.
And it causes this amazing reaction that they realize, oh my gosh, we might be able to save the crop. And so they start really using it. Now, the question is, where did the bell go? Where did the tuning fork go? Because it is no longer around. It was a story that kind of circulated around this time, but it was a wild man came to the town and gave them this, a man from the wilds. Now, the descriptions of the wild man is 9 foot tall and wearing skins on top of his fur coat. So this may be what we consider a wild man, where he's actually a guy who lives in the wilds and hunts and does all that. but that big and that hairy, I immediately go our old friend Bigfoot, Sasquatch.
I was gonna say I feel like that is what is happening there. Yes.
And supposedly that town has never had weevils again.
Oh,
So when you visit Little Switzerland, you can avoid weevils. But I want to know what that, if it was shamanistic, if it was some sort of medicine man thing, because it was tribal and all this.
well, maybe, just maybe, hear me out.
Hmm.
I think different people, different cultures, different things can have different superpowers.
Yes.
Now, when the earth was created and went through its many maturations and we developed the weevil, of course, needs a natural born enemy. And what is the natural born enemy of a weevil? A wild man with a tuning fork and clay stick and a bell. So I think that this is some sort of superhero. And what I'm going to say, travelers, is we have had some fantastic Holler monsters brought up, but I want you guys to do me one better. I want one of two things, and I want it almost immediately. First and foremost, I would like any artists out there, I don't care if you think you're great or not, I know you're great. We would like some representations of what you feel like these creatures are like. And I want the entire scene with the girl, the Bigfoot, the worm, and the fire. I want all of it. Not some berries. Don't forget, I want the whole thing. I want a picture. We will post it on the site. We will share it on social media. Do your darndest. Spearfinger, what do you believe she looks like? Because she obviously was human before, got cursed, made a deal with the demon. I want to know what you guys think this looks like. And now the equivalent of our friend that uses his flute to control the rats, we now have the Weevil song.
He is very much a Pied Piper of
yes.
the Bigfoot industry there. And I also want to know, yo, dude, sign up your services. You could be the new Orkin man. It would
Seriously.
be amazing, if you knew how to get rid of weevils. I mean, if you now, in all seriousness, if you do have weevil infestations in your house, call a professional. You can always reach out to Bigfoot. Who knows? He might come in. But the way to get rid of weevils mostly is vinegar spray and soapy water and keep your food dry. That's
okay. But part 2 of this, Mark, is I feel there are some cosplay available here.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I would like for the upcoming year, we're going to be at a lot of conventions, events. We're getting our events page updated right now. Our amazing producer is working on that. We'll have them on Facebook and we'll have them on our actual website so you can come find us and meet us. But let me just say, for those that show up in these amazing cosplays to our booth, you will get a very special Eerie Travels treat of some kind that
some
we
swag,
with us because
swag of some sort. Definitely.
Oh yes, you will get some Eerie Travel swag. So I want to see Spearfinger. You could be the worm or Bigfoot and the worm. There's a combo.
When I think of worms with human faces, I think of that time Freddy Krueger did that. That was my immediate thought when I read that. Was I think it was
Did Beetlejuice do that too? Wasn't there?
Maybe it was a snake. With a human.
I'm saying though, if you're gonna show up as a Bigfoot, you either have to have a worm or this tuning fork and the clay stick and the bell. Because we're not just gonna take Sasquatch. You need to up your game a little bit, my friends.
Yeah, that's pretty gold. No, I'm curious if the Little Switzerland Chamber of Commerce is gonna suddenly bring this out and reach into it, because look at Point Pleasant with with that, and the Dismal Swamp. I mean, you already got a terrible name, Great Dismal Swamp, so you might want to look. And he's called Skunkfoot. I'm sure he's not happy about that. I know the skunk ape isn't happy about being called the skunk ape. Call him the Bigfoot that saved Christmas. I
love the Bigfoot that saved Christmas. And we did include the links to all these places, travelers, so you can
visit
go
them.
travel to these locations and potentially run into Holler monsters. But let's just say it sounds like 2 of them are fairly nice. I would try to avoid trying to hunt down Spearfinger. So
Yeah.
she sounds like that will be an unpleasant experience all around if she is still out and about.
Yep. And with my goodness, gang. So as always, thank you so much for joining us. We had so much fun with this episode. I know we've had a few people requesting some Holler Monster stories, so I was happy to share these. I've got a lot more on tap, gang. Believe me, this is the tip of the iceberg. Much more ahead. We've got a few more guests coming up for the rest of the holidays. We've got our event schedule filling up. We've got our Patreon starting early next year. We will have more information on that very, very soon. But in the meantime, when you're looking for those last minute holiday gifts, please visit our sponsors. Download the Destiny Beard soundtrack songs. Man, those are amazing. And some of our
We
other
have
stuff.
our Friends of Eerie Travels on our website, so you can go
yeah.
check out all these people that we talk about. We try to get them up and added to the website and stuff. So just please check it out.
Yep. And with that, gang, I will say that it is now officially the dark of the year. When you're out watching for cryptids, make sure you keep your eyes behind your head, because you never know when that worm may come and get you. But if you're lucky, maybe Bigfoot will save you with a bell, and he'll chase away the worm and chase away the giant weevils. And with that, gang, we will see you on the other side.